I know that Senator Padilla was in here. He and I have been working on this issue before he even was a senator in a bipartisan way. So I want to thank the panelists. So for those watching, we had a big announcement in Alaska last week. Hopefully you heard about it. I want to make sure the chairman hears about it before he leaves. So in our Save Our Seas 2.0 legislation, that was legislation that a number of us got behind. Senator Whitehouse and I were the leads on that. Most comprehensive ocean cleanup legislation ever from the Congress. One of the things is a Marine Debris Foundation. The Marine Debris Foundation is a congressionally chartered foundation that focuses on ocean cleanup, plastics, other marine debris. Last week I had the great pleasure of announcing that the Marine Debris Foundation would be headquartered in Juneau, Alaska, in collaboration with our universities there that do already great ocean research. So this will be a public-private partnership, can accept private dollars. There's a lot of interest in this in the private sector. So we want to make sure you guys all get a chance to come out as this foundation gets bigger, more prominent on the issues that we're all talking about: ocean debris, ocean plastics, and what we can do to keep our oceans clean. This is a global challenge, I like to say, but also a solvable one, because we know that, you know, the estimates are anywhere from 60 to 70% of all the ocean debris in the oceans in the world come from a number of rivers. The estimates are 10 or more in Asia and Africa. So, very solvable. Let me ask each of you, you know, there's this idea of, well, we ban plastics or other things. Here's the big idea. By the way, this Marine Debris Foundation has one of the elements in the law is it will have a Genius Prize that focuses on public-private university innovations in terms of technologies that can dramatically impact keeping our oceans clean. One of the ideas I've always been pressing for is this idea of you have a plastic bottle, somehow it gets in the ocean. You don't want it to be, but it is. It has water, you know, it's how people drink clean water. That bottle right now, they don't fully biodegrade. That's why we have microplastics in the water. But I know there's chemists in America who are working on the potential of a plastic water bottle to fully biodegrade. That would be a huge innovation. Wouldn't be coming from the government, but that's something that this Marine Debris Foundation, now in Alaska, with its mandate of many things, but one of which is a Genius Prize, would be something to undertake. So, let me ask all of you, what do you see? And since the chairman left, I can ask his questions as long as I want, so this is kind of nice. There's no one else waiting for me. What do you guys see as the technological advancements and innovations that can be leveraged to either detect microplastics or just get rid of them when they're in the ocean? So I'll just ask each of you on that really important question. What are you seeing? You're all top professors, applied researchers. This is the key, right? A lot of times we in the Senate, oh, the government's going to do this, the government's going to do that. My view is this challenge, which is going to be solved, it's solvable, it's going to be through private sector innovations. And this new Marine Debris Foundation, based in Alaska, is going to help encourage that. So why don't we start with you, Dr. Brander?
Sure. So that's really
And have you guys heard of the new Marine Debris Foundation in Juneau, Alaska? I hope you have. You got to come out and visit it. And we'll wait for it to get a little bigger, but it's exciting.
Yeah, really exciting that that foundation has been created, and I agree that private sector solutions are needed, but I think that needs to happen under an umbrella of some regulation
Sure.
that allows for things to happen at an equitable level and, at a similar speed nationwide rather than happening state by state or region by region. And in terms of the development of a plastic bottle that could fully degrade, that
Or any other technological innovation that if you had a magic wand, you think could be really important, because that's one idea I've been pushing, but we want other ideas, right? Like, what are the other ideas? This foundation is going to help encourage all of this thinking. So, three of the top minds on this, what's your kind of magic wand moment in terms of a technological innovation that could be really helpful?
I think if there was a technological innovation that could better advance chemical simplification in some of these plastic products that were being made, that would greatly reduce the number of toxic compounds that are being released into the environment that we're being exposed to. Currently, we have been relying on so many different combinations of chemicals that even if something is fully biodegrading, that doesn't mean that it's not releasing those toxic compounds into the environment. And so really, the toxicity of the polymers and the products that are being used, or the chemicals that are being used to produce those products, needs to be tackled first before we aim at making things biodegrade faster or biodegrade completely.
Okay, good. That's a great answer. What about you, Dr. Mason?
Well, I concur with what you said, which is probably no surprise. We've been on the same page this whole day. The
Think
problem,
big here. This is the moment, right? You can any big innovation that, even if it's way out there, that you think if somebody figured it out, would have a giant impact.
well, I think the problem needs to be, I mean, you missed earlier, which is fine. I'm not criticizing you. I'm just stating that, like earlier, I mentioned that the solution to this is before you get to the oceans and other freshwater systems, by the way, because this isn't just an oceans problem. It's before you're dealing with microplastics and nanoplastics. And so really solving it at almost the before litter problem is the real innovation that needs to happen, with the focus on, the biggest piece of the market is packaging. And so thinking about alternatives to those packaging. So I think there are some alternative kind of second generation polymers that are being developed, and I think that that's encouraging. But to the point that Dr. Brender was making, the chemicals that are used in those are still an issue, and so those chemicals need to change. I think those are especially exciting for something like cars or refrigerators, things that where the use of plastics, cars are much more fuel efficient because of the plastics that have been used in them. And so it's not a place that you're not going to just eliminate the plastics, but coming up with a biodegradable, non-toxic plastic would be really helpful there. And so I think that that's the future. They're also looking at hydrogels as a way of removing nano and microplastics as a potential. But I think cleanup comes secondary to really solving the problem upstream from that.
So the Save Our Seas 2.0 Act hopefully you've read it and seen it, focuses a lot on the upstream. So I don't disagree with you at all on that. So both of you are kind of saying biodegradability is important, but less toxicity is equally important. Okay, good, great. Mr. Alspa, what about you?
Yeah, thank you, and I appreciate the information about Juneau, and I would take any available opportunity to visit Juneau anytime
Good.
I can reasonably do so.
Beautiful place. I just spent the last 3 days there, and it's wonderful, and they're very excited about this new foundation and it leveraging, we have a huge NOAA research facility in Juneau. We have a University of Alaska, Fairbanks, which has their College of Fisheries and Oceans, University of Alaska Southeast, so it's kind of becoming a big research hub on fisheries, on oceans, and this will add to that, which will now be on ocean debris. So you guys are all invited. Matter of fact, everybody here is invited. Come on up to Alaska. We'd love to have you.
So a couple of points to your question. First, with respect to the biodegradation of something like a water bottle, I believe that technology to do that probably already exists in a number of facets, but the problem is not the technology. In this case, it's the scalability of that technology for industrial processes that make it economical. So I believe the private sector can do that as long as there's an economics market to make there an incentive to do so.
But don't you think if you're the company, and I've said this a lot, if you're the company that actually, and maybe it's already happened, but if you're the company that has cracked the code on less toxicity and full biodegradability, A, I think that would be very good for the environment, but B, that company's gonna probably profit, which, you know, as I've said, we're a capitalist society. I think that's how you drive innovation. That's fine with me, right? So that's a win-win, right? Help the environment, maybe help build a company, the workers benefit, you know, shareholders benefit. So it seems to me it could be a potentially very lucrative place to actually be successful, not just for the environment, but for the economy as well. What do you think?
I agree, unless they need to make it scalable so that it is
Scalable, right.
able to be accomplished, correct. But in terms of my wish list for technology,
Yeah, wish
I
list.
sincerely appreciate that question a lot. And we've talked on this panel a lot about nanoplastics and the lack of methods to detect nanoplastics. And there's detection, period, and then there's making the method economical and reliable and efficient, and things that make it usable for us to actually detect nanoplastics in the environment and in water supplies. And we'll talk a little bit about in my field about the evolution of sensor technology and how if we were able to quickly, with some kind of, and I'll use this word colloquially, Star Trek type technology, to scan a water sample or scan an air sample or a soil sample and detect the nanoplastics that are present, that would give
Does
us
that technology exist right now or no?
to the extent that I've described it, no. But this is actually where I'm going with this point. When I have conversations about these types of sensors with people in my field, they'll say, well, you know, we're so far away from that, that's not feasible. But we tend to think as a society in very myopic terms about what's possible and what's not.
Yeah.
And if you had asked someone in, say, 1875 if we'd put a man on the moon, they probably would have said there's no way that's ever going to happen, but yet we did it. So I think we shouldn't limit ourselves based on our knowledge of what's possible today, but what might be possible tomorrow. And I feel like one way to accomplish that is to encourage cross-disciplinary collaboration among researchers and industry, because there could be limitations on a method to detect nanoplastics that an industry that's not even thinking about nanoplastics might have a solution for. And all you need to do is connect those dots, get those people talking to each other, and they might find they have a mutual solution that can solve the problem. And if more of that cross-disciplinary collaboration occurs, we may solve that problem maybe before I retire as opposed to when my daughter retires.
Good. Well, look, what we're trying to do in Alaska, particularly in Juneau on this issue, is this kind of cross-disciplinary collaboration. And we have the institutions right now, as I mentioned, between NOAA, our research universities, and this new foundation, the Congressionally Chartered Marine Debris Foundation, to do that. And then the idea in the legislation with our Genius Prize is to also do exactly that, to encourage people to press the limits of what they think is feasible from a technological standpoint, and then bring that period much sooner, right? To your point, 1875, getting to the moon, you know, 100 years, less than 100 years from that date, is pretty remarkable. So, great. Any other thoughts on the technological side before I gavel out here from our witnesses? It's a really important component, and you guys have answered the question really well. Well, with that, I want to close by, again, thanking our witnesses for appearing today, sharing their knowledge on microplastics. I would also like to thank Senators Merkley and Padilla and Mullen and Lummis for being the chairs of this joint hearing, which is important on this important topic. Before we adjourn, I ask unanimous consent to submit for the record a variety of materials that include letters from stakeholders and other materials that relate to today's hearing without objection. Additionally, senators will be allowed to submit written questions for the record for all of you. through the close of business on Tuesday, March 12th. We will compile these questions for the record and send them to our witnesses, and we will respectfully ask all of you to try to reply to those no later than March 26th, Tuesday. And with that, again, I want to thank the witnesses. We have a really good crowd here, shows you the importance of this very important topic, and I think we made some good progress to that today. With that, the hearing is adjourned.